Though customers unhappy with how internet giants are using their personal data are suing Google, LinkedIn and Yahoo. They say they're unfairly appropriating personal information for profit. Well, the case is being overseen today in the United States by District Judge Lucy Koh. Well, it's a very complicated story, but it does affect you and I. So let's speak to the head of content from Clockwork Media. It's Mr. Craig Wilson who joins us. Craig, morning to you. Haven't seen you this year, so Happy New Year.
And to you.
And all the best for the year. This is an incredibly complicated case that they're trying to deal with here, especially when it comes to how many people use Google, Yahoo, LinkedIn, and we give away our rights to certain things when we do. But now this court case says it's being overdone. Is that really the crux of this?
Absolutely, and it's a number of court cases actually. It's as many as 200 cases brought, or at least 200 plaintiffs, looking to query how companies are actually using their data. And I think part of the problem is that the sort of online environment is evolving far faster than our legislation to deal with it and to deal with matters of privacy. And of course, in light of the Snowden and NSA revelations of last year, what's interesting about it is that people are now paying far more attention to their privacy and are being far more concerned with how companies are making use of the information we give them.
Give me an example. Let's go with Google. That does seem to be the big one. Yes, some will argue Yahoo is quite big, but we'll go with Google for the moment, shall we?
Sure.
How would they, for example, get my privacy, and how could they misappropriate what I use Google for?
Well, so one of the things that people are contesting is that Google Plus, for example, which is Google's social network, may use your image alongside an ad. Say you review a restaurant and you say, oh, I enjoyed going to this place. Google is trying to encourage users to allow it to say, to present to their friends a picture of you saying you endorse this restaurant. Now, there is an opt-out option, but one of the things that this case is bringing to the fore is consumers saying, well, are we being told explicitly enough what our data is actually being used for? And are we being given enough options to actually opt out? The problem, of course, is that we, as you said, give over these rights when we click that, the greatest lie on the internet, the I have read and understood the terms and conditions. We're giving over these terms. So what's going to be interesting from these sorts of cases is to see whether a precedent is set where companies like Google are required to be absolutely explicit about what they're using your data for, rather than using it and then saying sorry after the fact.
Despite the fact that the chances of one of us, perhaps just me, has read page 19 of 105 of the agreement terms on any of these websites, it's never happened, I'm sure, and agrees to it, does it explicitly suggest that they can use the content in any way they want to? For example, in someone who knows more about this, are they quite explicit in this?
Well, not in any way they want to, and some of the companies are certainly trying to be more explicit than others, but Facebook, for example, who's not part of this particular case but has had similar ones brought against it, has been notorious over the years for sort of overstepping the bounds perhaps of what people would consider reasonable use of their data and then apologizing after the fact. Facebook's also been known for changing the terms and conditions of how it can use your information and then just telling users there's been an update, please read these 20 pages and agree, which of course people don't do, but they have to click the agree button in order to continue using the service.
Yeah, or else it gets taken away from you like a bad child. When it comes to the punishment that these big corporations, I mean Google is multinational, I mean I can't imagine how much money they've got, how much money they can throw legally at this, and the others, what sort of recourse could they face if they were to be found to be inappropriately using information? I mean, what could they really do against these giants?
So, I mean, the most basic punitive measures tend to be fines. And of course, as you said, with companies of this size, the fines really do feel like something of a slap on the wrist and a little more. What's going to be interesting in coming years is whether any of these cases set precedents that actually change the fundamentals of the way that they have to interact with the customers. And that's obviously what the plaintiffs in this instance are hoping for, is that they can actually change the sort of policy around these things, rather than merely seeing fines slapped and then business as usual.
Oh, I'm glad you came in to make sense of it for me. It's a very complicated case happening over in the States. Craig, thank you very much. Craig Wilson, head of content at Clockwork Media. You can also follow him on Twitter. I'm sure he'll watch this story very closely over the next few days.
Know more about your world.
ENCA.com